Hello, my name is Professor Victor Cheng. I'm very honored to give a talk. The title is called New Product Design and Implementation of Aboleth, a mobile D&D character creator for enterprise mobile application and Metaverse. So it is a research that done for investigation that the game can be put on the Metaverse and what other issues we need to know. And the content can be divided as follows. We will start with the overview, and then with the related works, then talk about the project design, followed by discussion, and then we're going to finish the talk with a conclusion. As you can see, that the overview, so a lot of mobile application development has been rapidly changing due to the popularity and pervasiveness among consumers. So we use them very frequently. So Dungeons and Dragons, D&D in short, is an immersive fantasy role-playing game that's called RPG, initially developed by two developers in 1974, but even now it's still ongoing for more than up to 50 years. And as you know, game has always been changing and emerging in different forms. So D&D was used as a target of our new product design and implementation illustration. The prototype describes the process from identifying the marketing gap to API implementation. And this project detail in this paper is based on the idea to create a suitable software replacement for the character sheet of the D&D. So related works. As we have three major mobile applications. So the first one is native mobile applications. It's designed to run in a specific mobile operating system, such as Android, iOS, using a particular programming language and toolkits of the target platform, which leads to device full capabilities that can be achieved and utilized. The second one is the hybrid mobile application is installed on a device and run through the web browsers. The third one is the mobile application that allows users to access via mobile web browsers. And in these days, there are three interface designs. Sometimes you can support one of them or two of them or even three of them. And it's getting more and more popular in mobile games and also in the gaming society. And the mobile application development interface designs is popular across platforms for mobile application development, such as Xamarin. So Xamarin is a leading free open source platform for building cross-platform mobile applications that has the key concepts focused on code sharing, enhancing testability, decreasing overall development, and maintaining resources. So according to Michel and Kushwaha, the Xamarin platform comprises 6 layers of architecture. So it has the data layer, is where the data can be saved on mobile device. And it has the data access layer to connect to Xamarin. It has the business layer or business logic layer, comprises business entity definitions for programmers to implement tasks such as access management. It has the service access layer is used to access service, including the data transfer, data retrieval, and web services in the cloud and remote servers. And the application layer is where the code writing for the particular application. The UI layer manages the user screen and can be done both through Xamarin. So the D&D and human-computer interactions. D&D is a popular tabletop role-playing games, and which was created to perform fantasy stories inspired by fictions. And then Dungeons and Dragons Online was the first massively multiplayer online role-playing game to include voice chat in its systems when it was introduced in 2005. Human-computer interactions, HCI, has been the instrumental in bringing digital technology to the role-playing games to produce and enhance gaming experience. Many studies have concluded that the introduction of computational elements in role-playing games can improve the quality of the experience, such as the immersions of the player satisfaction, which has been also an important aspect for Metaverse, because this is how your experience was felt like you are in the real situations, and then to achieve a very high player satisfaction to address user experience difficulties. So HCI was implemented, and including interactive wearables based on computer systems, tangible objects, animated visual based on Android systems, the mixed reality environments based on Android and iOS systems, respectively, in addition to the communication tools. And human-computer interaction. The human-computer interaction is a field of research focused on interfaces between users and computers, allowing interrelating human with an electronic device capable of resolving several contemporary mobile application development problems. The key concept of HCI is the interface. That is why we can use the sensors, we can use the gesture and the location data to play a dominant role in several mobile applications compared to computer applications. A primary issue is to design mobile applications that to allow users to wish to perform rapid focus actions instead of long-lasting sessions like application running on a desktop computer. So in order to have the higher user satisfaction and experience, therefore it has to be rapid and focused actions rather than just wait until your action will be on demand. Therefore, the HCI has been highlighted as the key successful driver of the interface mobile application device to achieve comprehension and interaction between users and devices. The HCI design concentrated more on usability in the past, but recently its focal interest became user experience, emphasizing the emotions and interaction of users with a product and improving their satisfaction. A new process for rapidly developed design, evaluation, and interaction is required for the fast-changing interaction systems and interfaces, facilitating efficient and unique user interactions with computer systems. And then we can look at the different aspects of the HCI focus. So an explicit understanding of users, tasks, and environment is fundamental to the design. So we have to have a full understanding about what user need and what are the tasks they will perform on the game, and also the environments to satisfy the gaming environment. The users are involved throughout the design and the development. Even it's also important for before the final testing phase, that you actually work with the users to understand what they need and also collect their feedback about the experience, so that you can then improve on certain experiences in the game. And the design is driven and refined by user-centered evaluation. And the design addresses the whole user experience, is highly focused on what user needed from the beginning to the end, except you have a heavy user input and involvement towards the end of the testing, and even during the initial phase of the game. And design team includes multidisciplinary skills and perspective, because you need experts from different areas and domains to work together to jointly deliver the gaming and to ensure there is a very high level of satisfaction. And the process is interactive and also iterative to ensure that we always go again and improve ourselves, fix all the errors, so that we achieve a better and also higher user satisfaction. Agile development is a process that combines interactive with incremental, which focus on the people interaction. And agile development has been used in software engineering, and there has been also one of the way to adopt since from 2020, it has the 37% to increase to 80% in 2021. So there's several approaches. First, we can use a dynamic system development methodology that focuses on the full project life cycle to consider the need to react quickly throughout the product development, while incorporating the constraints often imposed by corporate cultures and processes, so that we can then react quickly throughout the product development. So we can then fix all the errors and then resolve the user's need. Scrum is to address the complex adaptive issues while creatively and productively delivering the highest value products. Extreme programming is aiming to produce higher quality software, deal with fast delivery issues, and improve the quality of life for the development team. Its features typically comprise small interactions and quick interactions. So this framework is appropriate for the fast-changing business environment. Feature-driven development is to highlight the planning and constructing stages, concentrating on the quality perspective. This approach is related to the Scrum and focuses on the feature or user stories. So this will be very important for literature review. So the summary and the problem statement. So for this game, it brought countless of hours of adventure to the player around the world. And then its success is to provide a new door for business development and researchers to develop fast-flowing game design and implementation with high performance and consumer satisfaction. As compared to the traditional software development on desktop computers, mobile software development is considered different and face many challenges. And of course, we need to have identify research gap that lies in the most studies that have applied human-computer interaction to mobile system role-playing games, including this game, have focused on a single or mobile phone system such as Android, iOS. The research question in this study is to how to design a mobile game application that will increase the satisfaction of users of multi-role-playing games while avoiding the need for the game companies to spend a lot of time designing a separate game application for each mobile system so that we can use a common interface or common techniques that can be used across different games. And to address the research problem, we aim to create a suitable software replacement for the character sheet of a D&D game by employing Xamarin and an agile framework. This application attempts to improve the HCI, eventually enhance the user experiences and provide a solution for businesses, especially small and medium-sized ones, to a flexible, fast design and build mobile apps that can run on multi-platforms. So for the third section, then we will look at product design. First of all, we have the description of the problem. The official characters of the sheet offers a reasonably suitable solution for creating and managing characters with all the necessary information included and formatted appropriately. However, since it is a physical sheet of paper, the player has to calculate and fill out all of this information manually. This proved to be especially problematic as this miscellaneous data often includes the character's racial traits and class features. This leads to negatively impacts on the game's overall experience. So at the beginning of the game, you have to fill in all the information that you need. So you need something that makes the life much easier and makes the experience much more comfortable without you spending a lot of time to even understand what you need to do at the very beginning. So we have to take the strong assumption that we do not expect the user to know everything, and then it will be able to perform any task very easily, even without any instruction. So that's very important for all the games. As you can then see that a description of the solution is that we have a mobile application, and this application should include the background source of in-gaming data, which can be collected to create a dashboard or for the user created D&D character. This data will be filtered and calculated based on the decision made by the user during the character creation process. The dashboard will provide a series of tools to allow users to update their characters, develop such that any updates must conform to the game's rules, as written in the official documentation. The name of this application will be Aboleth, named after a high-level monster from the game. The Aboleth will be the best written as the mobile application to maximize availability and usability, to suitably map out the relationship between each of the two deliverables and their data sources. And external system design was conceptualized using a C4 model. So we then design mobile applications just to provide this need, and therefore we use Aboleth much more, and due to various reasons, and we then use C4 models recommended by other software research groups. And the overall system design, as you can see this. So you have the Aboleth cache that has the databases Redis 6.x. So it then have all the Aboleth API response models for endpoints derived entirely from the third-party data. Then it also from the Aboleth API as the central way for connecting to the cache and also to connect to the databases. So the API is the one that can handle backend data for the Aboleth system. This includes the first-party data and also the character data and the third-party data that includes all the important features and the important information. You can also work with the database and then save them to the backend and stores users' characters data and the Aboleth system. You can also send to the DND5E API. So this allows us with the supplies of the SRD data for DND. The fifth edition is JSON that works with over Java and other existing REST API. We can also connect to the Aboleth mobile that works with the Xamarin mobile application. The user-facing service for the Aboleth system, a mobile application which allows the creation and the management of a DND character sheet. So each of these three environments is separated in two different ways. Therefore, we can then see the API and the third-party environment are hosted online by a suitable hosting service. Each of the three environments was explicitly designed to only communicate with one other environment. This pattern is easier and more intuitive to implement and ensure that no single service has any or has more than a single service dependency. With added techniques to reduce this dependence as much as possible, a secure, reliable system could be implemented with a transient problem occurring as infrequently as possible. In the mobile environment UI design, this is how it looks like, and you can see that we then have the given number. You can then use this number to fine-tune any of the ability scores, for instance, or you can then use it to adapt or increase or even decrease. So you can then see that this was the kind of API we developed, and that will then makes addition or subtraction of any ability very easily, and you can then see the overall added scores as you have, and then you can add to any of the given abilities such as speed, such as any other ability. So the overall appearance of the character, is challenging to visualize how these contents will be aggregated together onto a single page on the mobile app, because there was another thing. First of all, we need to have an interface to get this done in a very quick and easy way. Secondly, we need to also consider with a mobile interface, because there was a change with a lot of desktop users to move to a mobile platform. Therefore, all the design has to be tested, and that is fully functional or mobile systems. So the individual components of the sheet were redesigned to improve the formatting and the grouping of its content data. And several iterations of the design for the character sheet was created to resolve the issue and updated regularly as alternative solutions presented themselves. So this was a kind of interface that we would also implement and use throughout the games. And the mobile environment UI design, as you can see, then gives more description about a character, and then to give and define what a character can do. As you can see that each character has its own abilities. So, for instance, magicians and fighters and also healers, they have a different type of ability, so that you have to give the right type of description and match the right type of data. And even you will then give a more specific roles. and there are some roles that they have a mixture of different skills. So this shows a similar design of the individual sections of the character sheet. This relates to the first proposed solution for the character sheet to be presented as a series of tabs, splitting data in a series of appropriate categories. For instance, the ability scores, the language, and proficiency. So you have these different tabs that you can change to different windows and then look at what they have. So that you at the same time you can congregate a lot of data without making them like Excel, because Excel will give you lots of rows. But when you have those tabs, and each tab may have a different specific column or rows, so that you then use this tab to contain more data in that. And there's also some people call it analytics, of course, that analytics will provide a way for you to contain much more data in a more visual and also more appealing, and also a way there for you to understand much better and quicker. This design was useful early into the development process for implementing early versions of the breakdowns alongside with the corresponding step of the character creator. Then implementation. During the game implementation, then we show that the different steps. So first of all, if we use the Aboleth API pipeline, we have a third-party data collection because we have to use a third party in a way that you then understand more about each player's performance, because certain data has been stored on the game's main server, which will not be possible for retrieval. So then we use a third party, we then connect to the third party API to understand it. And then we then look at the caching of the third party data, because we don't want too much temporary data to take lots of space. But of course, there could be also some important data left in the system cache. And then we look at the proxying of the third-party API endpoint. So that we have to, when we analyze data, we have to give a beginning and an endpoint. And then the first-party data management will be important, because we need to ensure that all these data have been properly managed. We don't miss anything. We don't make any silly mistake. We don't make any error. We make sure that the right data get to the right destination, and then the process of data analysis, data transfer, and interpretation are also accurate. And if that's the case, then we then look at the relational or database scheme access to that. We can then not only retrieve the data, but also to store the data, and also to ensure that if the right queries have been made, they can be also used for our future reference, so that we then know what sort of queries or what sort of work that we have done before. And then we then can look at the integration of the first and the third party data, so we then understand if whether there will be things in common, and also that we can understand with certain behaviors of yourself or with certain player, then we can then match any possible joins or possible similarities. So if we have something in common, then we then can observe better what the user's performance are, or maybe they have certain preferences during the game, or what makes them to feel more satisfied or happier during in the adventures, or certain features they like. So you can look at the code. It may not be interested by some of you, but it's also important for us to look at this. And in this case, we use the API, especially on the client side, because for the server side, they are all available in the system. There are certain things that you can also develop, but because in the gaming, we will want something very quick, want something that you can have an interaction. Usually, you will put more emphasis on the client side. But of course, on the server side, you can also define certain tasks or functions and work with them. In this case, then we look at the API client and service to work with the client service. So first of all, you need to have the HTTP client to get the data or information you need, and then you use the API client service, in which that you have a HTTP client factory, in a way that you can then begin to create your client. Yeah, so they will begin to create your client, your character, or your desired information. And then after that, we then try to get to the HTTP response message, so that we have to await HTTP client to get asynchronous URL. So during the time that we have created a very simple data or a new character, and in a way that because it's a client-server interaction, and you need to wait for a while before you get a further response, because when you add something, you click, and then you expect that the result to be given to you within 1 or 2 seconds, and that is how it works. And then HTTP response message is to get to IS success status code. So when it's success, it will give a confirmation that the things you have been successful. However, in the process, you have to wait until the response message has been captured. So when the response message has been captured and confirmed, then you will be able to respond to it and go to the next stage. And then you can then look at the synchronous task that have the get cache data, and with a model and string and function, and with a class and the converter, because we sometimes have to convert the data from one format to the other, or maybe because one character may have contain different types of data associated to the character. Therefore, we then have to convert to them successfully, and then we can then look at the distributed cache, the get string asynchronous, because we need to understand that data can be sometimes in a cache. Therefore, we have to ensure that we don't miss anything. First of all, we then use the get string asynchronous to retrieve the wanted data back. And then while we are doing the client server request, then we need some time to wait until this function is done. API client service is to get the desired data and then put them in a URL. So once if there's nothing in a URL, if there is something there, if there's something in the URL, then we then can perform. Okay, we wait for the converter. So the converter will then go ahead and then use the model JSON, and then you will then get a serial object in a way that we then use the model to process this function. And then once it's processed, then we then look at the command to be finished. There is a certain way, and then when during the data processing period, then it's checking the URL whether it exists, and then it's also checking back to the model that so that the data has been fully utilizing the model to process. And once it's valid, then it gets back to the end, so that we can use the data source for the method of the get cache data within the class distributed cache service. And then sometimes it's hard to see how it goes. So I've explained the functionality of this code, but now let's look at the structure. When we're doing the coding, we have to ensure that the beginning to the end, they are all fully matched. But now there are a lot of tools that can do this for us. And sometimes you just pull the first few words, it will then appear with several commands. So once you get yourself familiar, then you will find that this is a very straightforward process. But then some of the errors may be like this, like you want to create a client, but then you don't know what is the API. So you also have to know which API can do what task for you, so that in a way that you don't find the coding a dull experience. But then once you are getting familiar yourself, so in this model is like you have to allow the system to wait for a certain time, and then once the waiting period is over, then you will then perform the task. And this is a slightly different way compared to other models. So and similarly, to get the cache data, you have to look at the key variables that include the URL and also include the model. And once you get the right model, you begin to convert the data you want to retrieve, and also convert the data to the format you need, and also to retrieve the necessary data associated with the character or associated with certain actions during a particular adventure or particular date and time. And then you can get everything all back to you with the URL and with the model JSON. And then again, you can see when we're doing the coding, we have to make everything in align to each other. And so to implement, we have to consider the following factors and also follow those steps as one of the recommended process. We connect to the Aboleth API, and we have the app shell and page navigation. We understand that we are connected. Once we are there, we then implementation of the MVV pattern. So we understand there are certain patterns for us to follow, and we then follow the custom binding properties for creator views. Then we have the step-by-step flow for character creator and level up page. So once we have the character being in place, and when we get a level up, we want to see the changes to the character. The example code of the protocol. Again, in this case, we use C#. So how the view of the model is declared by the attribute, and also how we use them within the constructor. So first of all, we use this is a Xamarin, so it's a kind of way for you to compile all different options, because when you have performed some task and you get some awards, and then in a particular adventure, you have done a series of things. So now the code will be able to then collect all of them and compile them, or maybe you compile, oh, what has been happening? What has this person done? And you have to have the account information. And then we then character sheet page with the initialize component. So we initialize what we want to do. And then we then use the binding context to view the model. So with the new character sheet page view model. So character sheet page view model, a long name. What does it mean? It means that something you have seen something like this. So now you will then go back to this interface. So once we have done all the data processing earlier on, and now we want to compile everything together and then put it back to this beautiful user interfaces. That's what we do. Then we use the public asynchronous task. Because why asynchronous? Because you perform tasks at different stages. Therefore, the asynchronous, they are not together. And in this case, then we by looking at the time, like in retrospect, then we get all the HTTP response message, and then we then begin to wait until this HTTP client gets a synchronous URL task is done. Then once we ensure that it's successful, and then we have the response. We want to ensure that we have compiled everything back to the user interface. We want to wait until the things are done, and we do not expect a long wait, but still we have to wait until it's all updated on the server side. So through the client, and the input you put in, and then it's saved on the server. So in a way that we can see the content, and it's ready for asynchronous communication and data saving. And then in a way that we'll then finish this task. But again, by looking at asynchronous tasks, because we want to ensure that we do not miss anything, and why we have to reinforce the get cache data just in case that we may have missed something. And remember, there are so many people playing, and there are so many actions, so many things. So therefore, we have to go back to our system cache to retrieve any important data back. And then we then wait until the distributor cache with the get string synchronous the URL. So once we then wait until this task is done, then we then can wait for the conversion. It's very highly similar to the previous code I've explained, except there is now for the asynchronous code, and then so that we can then get a cache data and a class distributor cache service. So if we go back to the previous code, as you can see, it has a good similarity for that. And then this is how it looks like with the APIs. And of course, you can get cache data. And then this is how it works for the code. So then let's look at the discussion, the important discussion for us to know. So first of all, we have the research contribution. We can have many well-implemented features and backend code. So the implementation of API and the excellent use of a third-party service, including the caching system and the standardized pipeline for converting a third-party model into the first-party response that creates a reliable and intuitive API capable of operating even without its primary dependency. And the limitations, some missing features due to the time constraints and project management, the missing and several options available on the paper character sheet, particularly non-gameplay affecting character description, such as the personality and appearance. The character creator for Metaverse closely matches the original vision of the step-by-step page scrolling for. The limited toolset provided by the leading to an undisciplined mix of the framework code and the standard C# code, which is challenging to navigate and understand. So, of course, there are different limitations. Of course, it's not easy to get everything into a user interface character sheet, but also a mixture of different code to manage the software framework is also challenging. However, we have demonstrate a way to achieve this. And we have a potential next step. The first possible step is to make the continued development so that we will be able to tie up any loose ends in the remaining API. The focus will be given to ensure that the character definitions are feature complete, including the options and filters available. And another more flexible framework can be used. An attractive option could be the React framework for JavaScript. Its direct use of HTML and CSS offers a great deal of flexibility over the proprietary XML system, such as the one Xamarin uses. So the one that we use is more towards XML system together with C#. Of course, there are always pros and cons for which approach you use. So for the evaluation, we look at this way. First of all, we can access the game design, and so that the open-ended interviews were also conducted to evaluate the mobile D&D character creator proposed in this study to develop a holistic perspective on the subject matter. So we also collect feedback from game players, especially those with expert game playing experience, or those active game players who have been playing games or similar role-play games for many years. And then we also interview some of the software engineers and also some of the active game community users and also gaming researchers. And then there are three major interview questions for that. So the first one is, what do you think your proposed work can be relevant to the metaverse? And if the user interface is a focus, how can we improve on this? The second question is, in your opinion, how can other similar games or similar strategy games improve on their user interface and gamer involvement for metaverse? The third one is that please provide any other constructive feedback not mentioned above to improve our work and how they can be related to metaverse more. These three open-ended questions help us to identify the strength of the metaverse mobile D&D character creator and determine areas for the appropriateness of our research focus. And qualitative content analysis was used to evaluate the responses. The interviews included user interface expert, gaming researchers expert, and professional or highly experienced gamers. So in a way, we want to evaluate different feedback through this. So in our interview results, what we get is that our work has the following strengths: the UI concerning the metaverse. The electronic user interface can greatly reduce the difficulty of accessing information compared to a physical player, increase the fluidity and speed of the game of the player, and save the player from having to flip through hundreds of pages of the rule books. Because when you have lots of data and if there are lots of actions, you may have to flip through different places to look at the areas you need. And in this way, that you can then use those user interfaces so that this is a central place that you can then flip between the tabs, and each tab will contain all the important information for you. UI design allows a design language of a traditional paper character sheets, which makes it easier for experienced players to become familiar with the game quickly, so that you don't have to even go through tutorial and even spend hours to learn the game, because the game these days should allow anybody, even as young as primary school kids, they should be able to play without like reading or going through any tutorial. And that's how it's also important for metaverse, because metaverse should be something very self-understood by human beings with certain ages and above. And we can create a suitable software alternative to the character sheets for the D&D game, thus confirming the ownership of the digital product and allowing the digital product be freely traded between users. Because If you have your own patterns and your own ways for game development, because for certain games it's open to the community that you can make your code and improvement and then send back to the community, but also you can allow a better interaction with other players, such as you can exchange certain knowledge and also certain techniques for your own improvement. And the second one is the improvement could be made. As we can see, the text-based UI and design, we should have more emphasis on graphic design and 3D environment, because in some metaverse environment is all entirely 3D, and then it's more interactive like this. And also we have opinions of the user interface and gamer involvement of other applications for Metaverse. So logical design of the game, it is important to model the object within the game realistically in 3D and include the concept of the time and give objects and users of a 4D coordinate to enhance interactivity. The gameplay design to enrich the Metaverse game should be enhanced with the entertainment and gameplay. The concept of blockchain games can be introduced to combine Metaverse and virtual tokens. In addition, it can be associated with a real-world object, such as using the physical cards to match the method to increase the entertainment and participation of the game. And we can then have the existing game resource, because they can be integrated to facilitate more comprehensive access to information for players. We can then design of the game UI should be user-centered with a more elegant design, and then with more advanced hints can be retrieved using gestures or the keyboard. So these are the various opinions for the further improvement if we want to fully transport them into Metaverse. And then conclusion. So first of all, we present a prototype of a new product design and implementation process by illustrating the step-by-step development process for Aboleth, a virtual character sheet for playing Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition mobile application. And we highlight the contribution of the Agile framework. We use the HCI as Xamarin apps in the new product design and implementation for enterprise mobile application and Metaverse. Then we demonstrate to the other researchers in the field of game research a user-centered prototype that integrates software engineering and game design to improve the human-computer interactions of mobile applications. We then provide a solution for enterprises, especially small and medium-sized enterprises, to quickly design and build their application, mobile application for multiple platforms in a flexible and rapid manner. And we then use a C4 model solution, since it can improve the performance of the mobile applications and foster a mobile application process. So why should you cite our paper? So first of all, thank you for listening for a long time. And we provide an overview of a problem solution and practical design consideration in developing enterprise mobile applications. And then we integrate software engineering and game design to improve HCI and mobile applications. We focus on user-centered design and use HCI to improve user interface efficiency and satisfaction to eventually enhance user experience. The second point is that we present a prototype of a new product design and implement the design. Implement the process and describe and explain how the primary code is executed. Because unlike some research, we really want to provide a practical solution. It's not just like saying you should do A, B, C, but we actually implement it and then show to the extent that it can be done. And then we demonstrate how Xamarin, a leading cross-platform for mobile applications and Agile framework, could flexibly adapt to enterprise new application design and implementation process. So we demonstrate one of the leading cross-platform can be used and further developed for that. And then we also present a new paradigm of using the C4 model solution that maps out to a relationship between each of the individual feature deliverables and their data sources, and so that we can improve the performance of a mobile application and foster a mobile application process. Because in mobile apps, demands for performance and speed are quite high. Therefore, we are exploring better ways to achieve this. Of course, there are always better technologies from time to time. And I hope that you can consider citing our paper, and we put a link here. And this paper will be provided to you so that you will be able to read them for free. And please consider downloading and citing our paper. Thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate you to listen. And thank you so much. We will inform you we have the next talk. Thank you.